The code to winning. Insights you need today to seize the world tomorrow. Today we have a very special guest, Rich Stebnicki, founder of the Boundless Financial Group, an insurance agency generating over 8 figures of revenue each and every single year. So, like I said, special guest, very insightful, an amazing entrepreneur, and a very, very good man as well. So, Rich, welcome to the podcast. And
yeah, thank you so much, KG, for inviting me on the podcast.
Awesome.
Glad to be here.
So before we actually even start, like I said, by the way, Stebnicki, where's that last name from?
Yeah, so it's going to be a Polish last name.
Oh, Polish.
Yeah.
Are your parents like all from there? Or?
Yeah, so it's my grandparents. Yeah, so my dad's side of the family.
My wife is half Russian.
Okay.
So her mother's side of the family and the entire side of the family are from Russia as well.
Oh, wow.
And so she's never been there. She spoke Russian, I think, when we were super young and all that. But I think at age 3, they just started speaking English. And so over time, it's been lost as well. So when I heard Stebnicki, I was like, it has a bit of Scandinavian in that as well.
There's definitely some adjustments and changes, just how people immigrated over. There was shortenings, and I'm sure there was some kind of a shortening to the last name, and so that makes a lot of sense.
Awesome. Thank you for coming today, boss. I wanted to, just dig deep and find out like what started your entrepreneurship journey.
Yeah, so originally, I'm from Northeast Ohio, originally born and raised, and pretty much I started my entrepreneurial journey after moving out to Arizona to go to school out there, to college, and I ended up not really resonating with what I was learning versus like the teachers, what accomplishments, right? So it's like I was learning from teachers that weren't necessarily, doing the thing that I wanted to do, right? And I had a little bit of a taste in network marketing, entrepreneurship, right when I moved out to Arizona, and then I shortly, after about a semester, I ended up dropping out of school to go pursue door-to-door sales all the way out in Hawaii, and that was pretty much how my entrepreneurial journey started over there.
All right, awesome. So from Ohio, you went straight to Hawaii, and which industry were you in when you're doing door to door?
Yeah, so I started out to go to do smart home, so alarm smart home. That didn't last very long because the program ended up falling apart. So my friend that invited me out there, it was a failing alarm or just smart home program. And so shortly, a few weeks later, I had to figure out, well, what am I going to do now? I just sold all of my stuff and moved out to a state that I've never been to before. And luckily, I was able to fall into a couple opportunities within the solar industry. I had no idea what solar was at the time. And I originally got to the Big Island of Hawaii, and I ended up needing to go from the Big Island to Oahu to go do the solar. And so I was just, I came out here to do door to door. I'm going to figure this thing out. I don't know what I'm doing, but let's just do it.
That's awesome. And so I noticed, because when I did solar in California for like 2.5 years, I was in the Bay Area, and like the electricity bills were one of the highest in the area, or like in the country as well.
Yeah.
What I found to be fascinating is that the only place within like the America that was higher was San Diego, number one. And then what I found to be very interesting was Hawaii.
Yeah.
Hawaii had the craziest electricity bills I've ever seen. Like what was it like? Why? Do you know why?
Yeah, the reason why is because, out in Hawaii, everything's going to be imported, right, to the island. And so whether it's, groceries, electricity, just oil, everything has to be imported to the island. So therefore, because of that, all of the transportation cost and everything like that to power, an island with Oahu has over 1 million people on it. A small little island, the cost is significant, to maintain the grid
100%.
structure and everything like that.
Awesome. And now, after you did like door to door, and after you were in solar, what was the transition in order for you to go into insurance before you actually started your own agency?
Yeah, so after doing solar door to door for 8 years, running my own business in solar as well, and I ended up looking at one of my friends, Jordan, that I've known for about a decade at this point. He was involved in the insurance industry, and I looked at it for the first time back in 2021. And I was looking at the numbers, and I was like, wow, these numbers, they look fake.
Like the story I told you earlier, right?
Exactly. So it was a similar experience, getting into the door-to-door industry. I was like, wow, these numbers look fake. And I was like, hey, I mean, if you're not locked up in prison in 2 years from now, and if this is actually real and you're still doing this thing, I'll take a more serious look at it, because I was in a comfortable position in solar, and it was able to take care of my family and everything like that. And I mean, solar is still a phenomenal opportunity.
And when did you do it? Which year was it when you did it?
Yes. So this was back, so 2020, 2021, that's when I took a look at it. Actually, it was late 2020. 2021, took another serious look at it. And then I ended up not starting until 2022, just about at second quarter. So I've been in it now for just about 2 years.
Wow.
Just about.
And just to elaborate again, while in this field, the company's generating 8 figures.
Yeah, so
Well, first year was obviously not that amount, right?
yeah,
It's
so I ended
trajected to
up
that.
so when I got into the industry, so I had no idea what I was doing again.
Okay.
So I was restarting from a completely different industry, so insurance, right? I didn't know what this policy was from that policy. I had no idea, right? So I started out just producing, just personally producing, right? Going to sell policies and help families and clients and everything like that. And I ended up starting the agency in October of 2022.
Oh, all right.
And so, because I needed to figure it out, right? And so I was using like 2, 3 different scripts at a time, right, when I got started within the industry, and just trying to figure out like what's going to work. And so that way I was able to help other people do the same thing.
All right.
Right. And so that's how it started. And then 2023 was our first year. We did multiple 7 figures in revenue our first year. This year, we're going to do over 8 figures in revenue as an agency.
Wow. And that's only in the short space of 2 years.
Yes, correct.
Okay. But what types of policies did you start selling
Yeah.
before your agency ended up transitioning? Like, what policies were you selling when you started off the insurance field?
Yeah, so we pretty much specialized since the beginning in really just 3 main things, right? So we're doing number 1, mortgage protection. So we're helping families cover the mortgage that they just took out, whether it was a new purchase, a refinance, or a home equity line of credit. So we're just helping them protect a plan or a plan that protects their mortgage, right, with living benefits to where they don't actually have to pass away for the policy to pay out. So it protects them as they're paying down the loan over time, but also in the event, they unexpectedly pass away, the policy covers the loan, right?
Okay.
And then we're also doing indexed universal life plans for, individuals that want to use those for like retirement purposes, or maybe becoming their own bank, or just overall just long-term financial protection for their family. And then also annuities, right? So where we help someone protect their retirement by moving it from, maybe they have their assets or their money in like a 401k or like a savings account, and we're helping them move that money into a vehicle that only participates in the market gains and not the losses.
Oh, okay. Is that what you started selling? Is that what you guys are currently selling right now?
Yeah, that's what I've been selling the entire time.
Okay.
So I focused in the beginning with the mortgage protection. I did a little bit of general just life insurance. I realized that I liked the mortgage protection a lot better, because we were with the mortgage protection, it's quite literally the same people that you and I both have sold, door to door in
100%.
homes, right, for solar. And so it's just all homeowners, just like, I've pretty much done my entire career.
Okay. And I'm glad you mentioned that insurance. So I actually have a question personally for me. I had 2 gentlemen that have actually came towards me, and they were talking about the IUL.
Yeah.
And so they both explain it very differently. Obviously, you're an expert in this field, so I want to ask you, because I was fascinated, because I've never heard of this thing in my entire life. And so when he broke it down, I'm like, that can't be real. And then I researched it. IUL, it actually is a real thing.
Yeah.
If you could explain to our viewers, what is IUL and how does it benefit a day-to-day consumer?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say number 1, it's not a perfect, fit for everyone, right?
Okay.
So it's all going to come down to, someone's actual situation and what their long-term, short-term financial goals are first, right? And so basically what it is, it's permanent life insurance, right? So at the core root, it's permanent life insurance that the policy is going to be attached to an indexing strategy, to where that some of the monthly premiums that are paid towards the policy are going to go inside of like the indexing strategy or accumulation value that grows at an interest rate alongside the market. And so it's very, very similar to like a 401k or like a Roth IRA in the way that it has compound interest in the accumulation value. and you could actually tap into the like savings account aspect of the policy
Okay.
as it's building up over time. And so you could do policy loans, and there's a lot that you can do with them. And a lot of the time, the clients that I'll help with the IULs, they'll even set them up for their kids to where they're able to, help create generational wealth and set up these plans to where their kids have financial protection, but also a possible like financial vehicle to pull from to, maybe pay for college or start a business or whatever it might be, when they're 18, 19, 20 or older.
And it's not text, right?
Text, how do you mean?
There, once you end up taking out the money before any life crisis or event
Oh yeah,
occurs.
it's taxed. Sorry about that. I misunderstood. So taxed, yeah. So you're not. It's tax free when you withdraw or when you
Yes.
take a policy loan. I should say. I want to make sure
Yeah.
I'm super clear about that. So when you take a policy loan, you're doing that tax free because you're not
Okay.
actually withdrawing the money. And then the neat thing about it is the policy will continue to compound over time as if you did not borrow the money, which is one of the really awesome parts about the plans, right? It's not
Yeah.
necessarily for everyone. Realistically, you need to properly fund them in order to make sense. If somebody wants an IUL and maybe their financial parameters are going to be $50, it's probably not the best plan for them, realistically.
I was about to say that because when I was speaking to him, I'm like, okay, I want to like take a 100K in like a certain amount or X amount of years.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, you have to pay that amount. I'm like, I'm not paying that amount for insurance. So I think I get why you say that it has to make sense, because it didn't really make sense for me to pay that amount of premium. So the people that take IUL, are those like usually like the top 1% that do it because they try and get like or is it like usually what's your take on
Yeah,
that?
so there's also simplified issued IULs that could be repurposed for even mortgage protection. So we actually use an IUL for the purpose of protecting a mortgage, right, as well. And so for the custom built ones, I mean, in general, depending on someone's age and health, because you still have to qualify for it with your age and health, I would say that it's not necessarily just for the top 1% of individuals. I mean, someone that's healthy, maybe in their 20s, 30s, 40s, that wants to put a couple $100 maybe a month towards an IUL, we can still create like a well structured plan. They don't need to be putting $4,000 or $5,000 a month like some of the clients I help do. They can simply even do a couple $100 a month, and it's still able to be structured in an advantageous way for the client.
Yeah, I'm glad you elaborated and explained on that. When I spoke to Mark, he was
Yeah.
very complimentary of you. He was talking about when he went to your place, and as he was cutting you and your family's hair, he just said that you were always on the move, taking a client, working with one of the people that work for your company, going like he's just said, he's just so relentless at what he does.
Yeah.
Now, before we even get to that in the later stage, I want to know what is like Boutas Financial Group. What is your company?
Yeah, so it's an insurance agency inside of the Integrity Marketing platform.
Okay.
So it's the same company so Integrity Marketing is where Patrick Bet David, which I'm sure you're probably familiar with, right? So he's actually sold his agency PHP for a couple $100 million to Integrity Marketing. So we're inside of that same platform, and we also have the ability to create an agency and to be able to sell our agency as well. There's been over 40 acquisitions already within our platform, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah. So if you talk about the company structure, the agency, are you guys anyway relatively close with World Financial Group, or is that something completely
No,
different?
that's going to be something completely
Okay,
different. So
'cause-
we have all of our carrier contracts. They're direct. So we get paid directly from the actual insurance companies.
Okay.
So we're contracted through all these, over 20 different insurance companies, and so we have the ability to, offer a wide range of, solutions to the families we serve, right? And so because Integrity has different platforms within it, and so pretty much the platform that we're involved with is going to be FFL, or Family First Life, right? And so we're building an agency within the platform, because I look at Integrity Marketing or Family First Life as a platform. They don't do Family First Life doesn't actually sell insurance. They're not an insurance company. They're an insurance marketing organization. And so we're just leveraging the carrier contracts that they already had in place, because you have to be doing certain amounts of volume,
Okay.
usually hundreds of millions of dollars of volume, to get an insurance contract direct with a Mutual of Omaha or like an Aetna or like an AIG or whatever insurance company it is.
Ooh, AIG. So the reason I knew AIG, I used to support Manchester United. Well, I used to, I still support Manchester United, but they were sponsored by AIG
Okay.
2007, 2008, 2009, and then they stopped 2009. But I never knew why they stopped, obviously because of the financial crisis that occurred over
Yeah.
there. And it still exists today, right, AIG?
Yeah, so now
Okay.
they rebranded as Corbridge actually.
Okay, all
Yeah.
right. Okay, so with I saw from your bio that it says people can work from home as well.
Yeah.
Okay, my point is with your insurance agency, do people like get leads? Are the agents given leads, or how does that work for them?
Yeah, so everyone that's in our agency is independent, right?
Okay.
So that's one of the beautiful things about this is so there's not you have to do things this specific way type of structure, right? So with the freedom that it allows, so we're all investing into our own leads because somebody that gets started with us, they're pretty much starting their own business realistically, right? And so as far as the lead flow goes, the agents will get their own leads and everything like that. We do have a lead program. So we have a 3-phase lead program to where when someone first gets started in our business, we'll have them start out as a scheduling coordinator. They learn how to set appointments effectively.
Okay.
And then they move to stage 2, usually about a couple weeks after that, to being able to write their own business. So they're doing the setting and the presentation side of it. And during those first 2 stages, I'm actually covering 100% of the lead cost. So
Wow.
like on a per agent basis for a new agent that's getting started, that lead cost is usually about like anywhere from about $1,000 to $1,500 a week
Okay.
in lead expenditure because we want to make sure
Per
that when,
agent.
oh yeah, per agent. And the reason why we do it this way is so that way they're able to achieve the results they desire as fast as possible. There's exceptions to the rule to where maybe it's 500 to 700 per week, for a part-time agent that's getting started with us. But we want to make sure we put them in a position to where they're not having to really have this, commission breath, right? They've spent their because the structure that most agencies follow is they're having the agents, put $1,000 into leads day one, and then they also have to go buy the licenses and everything like that. And now the agent is, trying to figure out how to sell this insurance thing, right? And so we're just positioning it a little bit differently just to make sure that, our new agent success rate is going to exceed, the industry averages, which it has, which is awesome.
Okay. And how many agents do you have currently right now?
Yeah, so currently right now on an active monthly basis, right now we have about 40 to 50 actively producing every single month.
That's a lot.
And
Are they based in Utah or different parts
So
of
they're based all over the U.S.
Okay.
So we have agents in over 20 different states at this point.
Well, that's awesome. And then if somebody is already currently in a job right now and obviously has something steady and wants to try this out on a part-time basis, do you guys also accommodate for that?
Yeah, so if someone wants to try this out, I would first figure out, why they want to try this out. Because this is really not for everyone, just because it goes against, the status quo of a 9 to 5 job, right? Just like door to door does through like your experience and everything like that. Someone can do that. We have people in the process right now that are currently doing that, and we have a lot of our agents are actually not from a sales background, actually. Like some of our best agents did not come from a sales background. We have agents that came from, a secretary position and this individual. So Frank, he was a secretary at a plasma donation center, and his first month with us, he almost wrote $30,000 in business his first month.
Personal commissions?
Personal commissions with 0 sales experience.
Wow. And in this situation, is it also 100% commission, or is it like a basic in certain positions in the company?
Yeah, so outside of the boundless employees that handle the back office and
Yeah.
operations for the business, it is 100% commission position. And
Okay.
so that's why we have it structured the way we do. So that way the new agent that comes on, we're basically giving them a non-charge backable spiff, right? Because in insurance, you have to have your license and everything like that to actually be written into a piece of business or whatever it might be. And so it gives the new agent the ability to basically dial and work leads in any one of the 50 states. So they're able to get antiquated with the states they prefer over others. So by the time they start doing their own presentations, they're able to purchase the licenses in the states that they want to be writing business in themselves. The ones they're more comfortable with certain states rather than others, which is nice.
I'm glad you mentioned that, which was going to segue to the question which I was going to ask, which sometimes when companies do start out, I think there's two problems that sometimes they overinvest in employees or people that are working even 1099, or sometimes they really underinvest and then require like people that are going to be working for and behalf of them to really spend so much out of their own pocket as well. Is there like a specific balance between what you guys do? Because I mean, I would expect somebody to pay for their own insurance license, but is there like some sort of a head start where you can actually like just focus directly on your sales?
Yeah, so that's going to be the lead program, right? The three phases, because someone goes from phase one. So one of our newer agents, right? I'll give you an example. So he came from a Medicare background, and he's tried insurance before. His name's Vernell, and he just started with us this past December. So end of December, he started setting up appointments for me for about 2 weeks, and then he got on the lead program to where I was sending him about $2,000 to $3,000 a month of leads for January and February. Those were his first 2 months of presenting and doing everything himself. He was able to write just under $20,000 of business his first month.
Wow.
So he wrote about $18,900 his first month with us, and then out of that $18,900, how it works is on the lead program, the agent will write me into the business because that's how the leads get covered.
Okay.
And so his portion of that, so he was able to net over $10,000 his first month without having to invest a dollar into leads. And then so he was able to build that cash flow up his first month, and his second month, he was able to do the same thing. His second month, he wrote over $20,000 of business, and he was able to, bank over, I think it was about $14,000 his second month, and did not have to invest in leads yet. And so he was able to use that as a boost to be able to start investing into leads in March.
Wow.
Right? And so that's the path to progression. So in March, he invested his own money into leads because it's his business. He stopped, the lead program because he didn't need it anymore, and he was able to go from, the different stages of the business, right? So it started out as, he was in the dependent stage, right?
Okay.
Then he went to independent, right? And now he's working towards, he's actually dependable now because he helps a lot of our newer agents too when they're in presentations, appointments, and everything like that.
And he just started in January, you said?
Exactly.
Okay. And then, so I want to know, not necessarily like the top producers. If somebody were just to like do the hours, what would you say is a good mean amount that they could perhaps like make per month? If they're just putting like the regular hours, just enough where they can still like have a good work-life balance with the family.
Yeah,
what could you make?
Yeah, so this is the way I like to look at it from our data, because we have a lot of data at this point, right, from all of our agents. So if you take away our top 2 producers that are doing over $100,000 a month in personal volume, so that's going to be myself and Logan O'Brien. Him and I are currently doing over $100,000 a month in personal issue paid volume, just writing the business on our own pen. If you remove our numbers from our agency numbers, our average agent issue pays just under $12,000 a month without us included, right? Because I don't believe that counts, right? So we like to remove the top 2, so Logan and I, from those statistics. And so with Logan and I included, the average agent issue pays $18,900, but we don't like to count ourselves because it's realistically, when we look at it from someone that wants to have the balance, work-life harmony and everything like that. That's why we don't count, in those we do, but we don't, right? And so our average agent that's not Logan and I doing over $100,000 a month averages just under $12,000.
That's more than an average American. Like, you can't even do that at a 9 to 5 and at a basic salary.
Nope.
That's ridiculous. That's actually good.
Yeah.
Because if you do like that amount, that is an easy 6-figure year while still having a normal schedule, while still being in the comfort of your own home as well.
Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely.
Now the question, since this is more of a home-based environment and remote, how do you cultivate a culture of accountability, of course, and also performance-based excellence as well?
Yeah. So, I mean, coming from the door-to-door industry, that's always been something that's been front of mind, and really just having, it's been a process to figure that out, right? Because with the door-to-door industry, you're used to going in for just in-person meetings, like a correlation meeting. With this, how we operate is we actually run our Zoom 24/7. So we run our Zoom. That's where all of us work together. So it's like our office basically. So we all work together on Zoom because all of the business and families that we help is 100% just over a phone call. And so we're able to work together on Zoom. We have our cameras on, and our agents are able to learn from our top producers as well as get real time live feedback while they're running presentations and dialing the phone. Because they'll unmute while they're dialing the phone and they're able to get feedback, or they're able to listen to like myself or Logan or some of our other top producers like Brendan, Frank and Vernell, and the list goes on, actually do the thing, right? So write the business, dial the phone, and everything like that. And so we'll leverage the breakout rooms as well and work one-on-one with agents inside of the breakout rooms. And so the Zoom is really just like our office, right? And then we're doing just everything on a phone call. So that's how we operate, just not having the in-person element on a daily basis, right?
And when you say a 24/7, the Zoom is just always on there.
Yeah, so the Zoom is on from
That's cool.
5 a.m. Mountain Standard Time all the way until about midnight Mountain Standard Time, 7 days a week.
And if you just want to like try and record your calls to try and get corrections, you kind of obviously do the mute thing and you do the call and you get feedback.
Yeah.
And then do you guys often have like training or like scripts for people to learn? So if somebody were to like see this and like, okay, I want to really try this thing out. Like 9 to 5 is not working for me.
Yeah.
And if Rich is saying at least I could make it 12,000, which is a realistic amount and a good mean.
Yeah.
Like, is there like a training that's provided, like a certain script from people to read from that can actually like guide them throughout the process?
Yeah, absolutely, because that's super important. And when I came into insurance, right? So that's where all the scripts have been developed by myself and Logan. So it's developed by agents that are doing over $100,000 a month of personal production, and it works on a brand new agent level. An agent that maybe wants to go from 20,000 a month to 50,000 a month, and also agents that want to go from 50,000 to 100,000 per month. We all use the same process and the same script that Logan and I both developed.
Okay, awesome stuff. I wanted to know, with that being said, we've done door to door, and we know sometimes like the environment may not be so conducive and so inviting, can be a little toxic sometimes. Are there certain ways, especially with things being remote, people getting a little like not necessarily complacent, but very discouraged? Is there a way that people can find a route of like mentorship, guided and coaching, even like beyond just the hours there, where like those private phone calls, do those take place to try and help those people that are struggling at the back there?
Yeah, every single day. We're doing that every day. So if someone runs a presentation and they're like, "Hey, Rich, can I get some feedback on that presentation? Hey, Rich, can I get some feedback on the dial I just made?" And so we also have what's called a film room inside of our Slack channel, which is where so the Slack channel is almost like just a company like messaging thing, almost like a group me. It's where everyone will post like their, the families they protect in there. But we also have a film room in there to where the agents can post recordings of themselves, right?
Oh,
and they can
okay,
actually get
that's nice.
feedback, and
That's
then they can
cool.
also listen to real recordings from, our top producing agents as well. So if they want to listen to a recording from one of our agents that's doing, 30,000 a month or 50,000, 80,000, 100,000 plus a month, they can go into the film room and just listen to live calls that were recorded.
Oh, that's nice. That's
Yeah.
awesome. And would you say there's any challenges with this being remote? I mean, I've done door to door, and I've only probably closed 2 or 3 deals via Solar, via Zoom, but mainly because I knocked on those. Would you say there's any challenges with this being like over the phone or through Zoom?
Yeah,
Of
well,
course,
I'd say the really the main challenges are going to be very similar to door, right? Because it's going to be, people getting in their own way. It's going to be discipline. It's going to be the habits that they, had already in place, right? They were either consistently consistent or they were consistently inconsistent before this,
Love
right?
that.
And so it's really the same fundamentals of door to door, right? The main thing is distractions, though. So people need to, make sure they're able to, set things up in a way to where if maybe they have kids at home, maybe they have, a wife at home, that, they're like, hey, during these hours, this is like when I'm working. And then they also need to make sure they're actually working during those hours, right? And I mean, realistically, like nobody is in our agency because they're forced to be in our agency. Everyone shows up on Zoom every day because they want to be on Zoom every day, right? And so just like door to door, I mean, the reality is this is not for everyone. It's not for most people, but it's going to be for people that, maybe want more out of life, want to achieve a certain level of income. And maybe they want more for their family. They want more freedom, flexibility, and everything like that. However, it's really, really hard work.
100%.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, you've always been an entrepreneur. What if somebody out there's like, I don't know, man, Rich is just gifted. Can I actually do this thing? Like, how do you encourage those people? Because I feel like it does make a difference, obviously, having a sales background, but also sometimes those that are actually humble enough to learn and understand the fundamentals and the importance of sales can pick it up. It just takes like hard work and grit. But what would you say to those people that want to give it a shot, but are slightly on the edge on like, should I do it or should I not do it?
Yeah, I mean, I would say number one, I mean, I'm still learning. I'm still learning every day. I don't know everything. That is for sure. Number one, and I've been doing this for over a decade, right? I learn something new every day. And so, I mean, for the new person that maybe does not have a sales background, it can be a little bit daunting or intimidating, right, from the outside looking in. But the reality is it's actually very simple with what we do. We have scripts, that were created. So someone just needs to follow a script. They're able to put a headset on while they're dialing the phone or running a presentation, and I could be in their ear while they're doing that as well. I could be giving them help and real-time feedback as they're doing the actual thing. And they're able to watch, peers and just individuals like themselves that maybe didn't have sales experience do the actual thing on a daily basis on Zoom. And so, I mean, if someone that doesn't have that sales experience, I feel like a lot of the time those individuals have a certain advantage as do people with sales experience, right? Because the people without the sales experience, the advantage that they have is not having bad habits from previous sales positions, right? So maybe, training was a little bit different. Maybe they came from a background of sales where it's like it's just more adversarial, right? To where
100%,
it's like coffees for closers, all of that stuff, and it's like, oh, the closing happens at the end. You have to know 15 ways to close the sale at the end, and so it's like our process is so much different just because we're just it's more consultative in a way, and we're just really trying to figure out if we could even help the person. So it's more of a conversation. And so when someone is looking at this, they come on the Zoom, and they're like, if anything, it's not very intimidating because they're just watching us have a conversation with another human, and we're just genuinely trying to see if we could help the person with what they're requesting.
100%. And that's actually a perfect answer. I wanted to know, I looked up a statistic actually recently that said to be top of the 1% in America as of 2023, that wasn't a new one, is you only had to make about $5.3 million. And that's only the top 1%. Like, that's how much you need to make. And right now, with the agency making clearly 8 figures, my question is, what keeps you going? Because usually when people often reach a certain level, they're like, I can take my foot off the brakes. Because from my conversation with Marcus, he was just saying how relentless you are. Like, you are always, and I saw your schedule. Your schedule was like, you literally just had like my little 1-hour segment in between a full schedule of clients as well, which is very inspiring. I absolutely admire that. What keeps you going? The Winning Store, in collaboration with my podcast, The Code to Winning, I have started a merch store called The Winning Store. We sell high quality merchandise in terms of shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, caps, phone cases, high quality tumblers as well. The best part about The Winning Store is that we believe in delivering nothing less than excellence. With a keen eye for quality and a passion for style, we curate products that ensure that you always emerge victorious in your fashion game. Are you ready to win? Well, shop right now today at winning.store.
Remember, in this game of life, the only way to lose is to stop playing. Here at the Winning Store, we're all about playing to win. So visit us today, winning.store. Get your merchandise today and stay victorious.
Going back to your statistics, so is that going to be net worth that we're talking about? So your top 1%?
I think it's gross, actually.
It's gross, so it's not, so, okay, so it's gross, not net worth?
I think it's gross.
Okay. So I thought,
I could be wrong, but I think it's gross.
Yeah, because I know I've seen some of the statistics before, and so if I'm not mistaken, I believe, so like on an annual income basis, it's actually not that high. I believe it was closer to like $400,000 in a year just a few years ago on like an annual like income earning basis.
I think the 400 year was in the world. I think that was a thing. I could be wrong as well.
Yeah,
but,
I'll have to double check on that. But yeah, I mean,
I could be wrong. I think you're right.
But yeah, as far as like the data on that, I mean, that's something I've studied quite a bit, just because it's like, okay, well, so in terms of the top 1% of income earners, you were just really just asking like why do they keep going, right? And so I mean, I would just say just having a why bigger than themselves, right? So whether it's their family, whether it's accomplishing a certain goal or whatever it might be, I would say that really what keeps pushing me is I look at this from, I learned this from Alex Hormozy, right? He looks at things in segments of like decades, right? So I've learned this from a lot of like really successful entrepreneurs. So when I got into insurance, I looked at it in terms of okay, so in 10 years from now, where do I want to be? In 10 years from now, the goal is to be at a point where we've either sold the agency for a 9-figure exit, as well as have $100 million plus just sitting in my bank account with assets, right? So that's going to be the long-term goal, because everyone's going to have their own definition of freedom, right? The person that has the definition of freedom of being able to spend a certain amount of time with their family and doing all those things, they're right. That's their definition. They're entitled to have whatever definition they want. And so I would just say, what keeps me going and other people going, it's really just going to be understanding their definition of freedom and working towards that end goal, or that next little milestone that they're focusing on. Right?
I love that. I love that a lot, actually. And then what would you say would be the hardest part of building an 8-figure business? Because it's very challenging. Nobody can do that like just out the blue. But what's the hardest part?
Yeah, I would say the hardest part is not stopping the things that you were doing to get to each milestone, right? So in the beginning, it was personal production, right? So focusing on getting our personal production. So I needed to get my personal production up to a high enough level to where I was able to help others, do the same thing. But then when you start adding on the recruiting, when you start adding on the training and everything like that, I never stopped selling at the high level. I never stopped selling at a 1%, top 1% industry level that entire time, when I kept adding more and more onto my plate. And so I would just say continuing to do the things that got me to the place that, I was at each milestone.
Okay, awesome. Which leads to the next question, actually. How important is the ability to predict market trends in the field of insurance?
Yeah, whether it's insurance, solar, door to door, any industry, I mean, being able to predict market trends is super important, right? And looking back at the transition from even solar to insurance, I was looking at market trends of insurance versus solar, right? Insurance has been around for well over 100 years. Mm-hmm. Solar is relatively more, newer, right? And so being able to predict the trend, if you look at Australia, so I have a friend that lives in Australia. He was a solar salesman in Australia. Solar salesmen in Australia made very, very good money, just like they do here in the U.S., right? But they're going to be about 5 to 8 years ahead of the U.S. in terms of renewable energy. And so now, at this time right now, the solar salesman that was making 6 figures or multiple 6 figures in Australia is now making around minimum wage. And why is that? Because of mass adoption. Because now it's not a matter of a homeowner being educated on solar by a door-to-door salesperson. They've already got the education based upon just the availability of the information, and so because it's been commoditized over in Australia, and so the bigger the industry gets, same thing in insurance though. There's always going to be market trends to follow, right, with AI and everything like mm-hmm. that. And so, even insurance, there's trends of AI, changing the industry as well, right? And so just making sure that you're able to kind of predict and to the best of your ability. Like when I left solar, it was at its peak. Everyone thought I was a crazy person for leaving solar when I did, right? In 2021, that's when,
That's when I started.
Exactly. 2019, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022. That's the peak of solar right there. I left during the peak because I realized the market trend of solar and like where it could possibly go based upon, other countries like Australia, right? Because I was looking at solar, okay, do I want to do another 10 years? Because I was in door to door for almost 10 years. Right. And so I was just at the end of my 10-year stint with the solar and door to door. And I was like, okay, do I want to do this for another 10 years? Am I going to be able to actually build a business, sell a business? Like who's going to buy my solar company in 10 years from now? Well, I answered that question with probably no one. Right. Because I really didn't see a history of acquisitions or anything like that. That was really something I could follow. Right. And so I looked at insurance. Being able to predict market trends in insurance, it's probably not going to be as good as it currently is right now forever. I believe that over the next 10 years, it's going to be really, really good. And it's going to be something that's sustainable long term. I mean, the insurance industry has created more millionaires than any other industry in the world.
Wow, that's interesting.
Even more than doctors, more than lots of other professions, even professional sports. So financial services is number one for millionaires.
Wow. And I'm glad you mentioned these specific trends. The reason why, I think I told you earlier on, I was born and raised in South Africa, right? One of my best friends came and visited with me back in 2018. We went there. By the way, dollar to rand value, going with a buck, green,
Yeah.
The dollar going back to South Africa, you get so much more with the dollar. The dollar is so valuable, but that's not the story. What I wanted to share is, as he was driving by, we saw these newly developed homes because everything was like just given solar. And so solar is so easily distributed, like in my country, in my home country, where like it's hardly like people make a commission there because they're just so ahead with the technology there as well. So I'm glad you mentioned that. The reason I'm also bringing that up is because we were not prepared for what happened in 2023. So we were in the state of California, and they implemented something called like the net energy metering 3.0, which means that those that were not grandfathered in, they were required to get an additional battery. Where did the battery come from? Our commissions. And so experiencing what we had, when I first got married, I remember showing my wife some of these checks of like just 15,000.
Oh yeah.
20,000. And like, it's
unreal.
Now imagine that, converting that times 20 to my home-based currency. I'm a millionaire in South Africa, respectfully.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
So now just sticking to that, like the money was more than I've ever made. You'd make like a certain, like 2 paychecks would be equivalent to what you'd make in like pest control for like 4 months, 4.5 months. And so it was something, it was like a gold rush.
Oh, absolutely.
And so like what happened is, and the thing is, people will still say, yeah, it's an opportunity and so forth. I'm a realist, and the market just hit us unexpectedly. And it had like a lot of downside with some of the people I brought over. It was just not the most positive experience. And like, I'm not going to be unauthentic and not tell you like the real raw truth. It just hit us hard because we're not like calculating that into existence, because we just thought, hang on, I've been doing this thing, this should be fine. But then it hits because like you're like, whoa. When you start seeing checks going down about like 60 to 70% compared to what you're making, which is still relatively good, but it's,
it's not the
market
same.
trends are so important. So I'm glad you shared that, man.
Yeah,
what else would
absolutely.
you contribute regarding that?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of solar, I mean, it's called the solar coaster for a reason. I rode the coaster for, about 8 years, right? And with what you said with the net energy metering, that was one aspect to being able to predict market trends. Well, solar has, a lot of unpredictability in terms of, public utility commissions making a split-second decision to change something as pivotal to the industry as net metering or the supply chain, right? Supply chain issues, things that none of us can control. When I was in Hawaii this was back in, I think it was back 2015, Hawaii stopped net metering overnight as well. This is not a new thing. This has happened in solar in lots of different markets as well. It's not just California. So it was back in like 2015, Hawaii Electric just stopped net metering overnight with no warning. Zero warning. that's when I went to go sell in San Diego, California for about 3-4
That's
months.
how we have that connection of
Exactly.
ours.
So about 3 to 4 months went over there, and then I went back to Hawaii when they figured out their stuff as far as the net metering goes. But that was like this. It was a scary time, because it's like you're doing this thing, and then things just change overnight, and you can't control it. The only thing you can control is possibly moving locations or something like that. But with the batteries, I don't know a ton about exactly. I've been out of it now for a little bit, but that's fascinating how now they're basically, taking commission away from the requirement of additional batteries because of the net metering. I didn't realize that was.
Yeah, and so it makes a big difference because, I mean, if people just started off and had that certain expectation, it's way easier. But when you're just accustomed to just like, the price per watt, working with the numbers where it benefits both the customer, consumer, including yourself, it makes a big difference as well. My next question is, we know obviously the importance of not financial education is good, yes, but mentorship and getting people that are in a specific field or industry to try and like nurture and like coach as well. When you made that specific transition from either solar into the insurance space, did you have somebody under the wing that was like teaching you all the ways as well?
I would say that I've learned from so many different, people over time. I've had a lot of mentors that I've, known in person, but I also have a lot of mentors that I've never met, right? Through books and audios and YouTube videos and everything like that. I mean, during the transition from, solar to insurance, that would be, Sean Mike, the individual who started the Family First Life, right? I flew to his house and talked to him about the possibility of making that switch from solar to insurance. And in terms of like mentorship, I've gotten some guidance from him, which has been pivotal.
Wow.
Pivotal. And so he runs this year, his organization that he created will do, close to, if not $1 billion of revenue this year. And so being able to learn from that caliber of individuals, along with others as well, has been, a huge advantage within getting started into a brand new, career. One thing I asked him was, if I switch from solar to insurance, this is like when I flew out to his house down in Florida before actually joining and starting insurance. I was like, hey, is it realistic for me to earn over $1 million my first year in insurance? And he was like, well, I mean, you're going to have to work really, really flipping hard, right? And he's like, yeah, the first thing you need to do is get to $50,000 a month of personal production and so on and so forth. But he's like, it's possible. I don't really know how many people have done it before, but it's definitely possible. I was like, okay, that's good enough. I'm going to do it.
Did you do it?
Yeah. First full year.
Wow.
Right? And so that's...
Yeah, I was bragging of making 6 figures my first year in solar. People are out here making 7 figures. My gosh.
It's it's just everything that I've learned, over the past decade. It's just an accumulation of just knowledge and skills that I've learned over time, right? This is with everything that I've applied to, insurance from door to door and everything like that. I would say that our agency does insurance in like a very door-to-door way, right? So we're not, dressed up in suits and going to people's houses. We're in like, like a door-to-door, almost like uniform, wearing a T-shirt and, a flat bill hat while helping families protect their mortgages over the phone, right?
I love that.
Yep.
I love that. I'm actually glad you mentioned all these mentors and the gentleman that you flew to his house, making $1 billion right now, which is something we spoke about earlier on, just the importance of like networking. I have been in America for 8 years right now, and one of the fundamental truths that I've learned in my experience being here, it's not how much you know, but it's definitely who you know.
Absolutely.
Your network is your net worth, and you're literally one handshake away from a completely different lifestyle. Like this is the capital of capitalism. Like America is the promised land. Like I feel like there's so much opportunity. Yeah. I've never seen so much opportunity in my entire life. The minute I arrived here, I wanted to get to know as many people as possible, but also not necessarily just like get to know them, but also try and add a bit of value to them as well. And sometimes that's the hardest thing with somebody that really can't offer much, but sometimes those that are mentoring people, appreciate like the small and tiny things that mentees can do, appreciation,
Yeah.
showing gratitude and all sorts, because eventually you can get to a level where you can add a bit more value as well.
Absolutely.
So that's one of the things I wanted to share. I feel like, your network is your net worth is so important, because with all the connections you're making, like I'm talking about earlier on, it makes sense why you're at that certain level of success, because naturally the ship rises with the tide. So
Yeah.
the more you know, the higher your network or your net
Absolutely.
worth is as well. So I wanted to share that with
Yeah,
you.
you're able
What do you
to
want
really,
to add regarding
yeah,
that?
you're really able to elevate yourself. I mean, you hit it on the head right there. Your network is your net worth, right? And so the people that are able to, build quality relationships, with people that are doing maybe not what they, necessarily are currently doing right now, but people that are, they'd look up to, right? People that are doing what they want to eventually be doing. That's a huge, point that I'd say that, most individuals that I've spoke with that have attained a really high level of success have all talked about having really good mentors. And I believe that, all of us are always learning, right? Whether you're Elon Musk, whether you're, Donald Trump, whether you're, just a politician, a high level salesperson, entrepreneur, whatever you're currently doing, there's always more that you can learn. And so in terms of, the mentor aspect, I mean, even the mentees, I've learned lots from mentees that I've had, right? And it's it's a humbling experience to hear a mentee and they're like, okay, they say this one line and I'm like, wow, that's actually sounds really good. I want to test that out, right? And so I would just say that, in terms of mentorship and learning, I would say that none of us should really ever, become too good to learn from anyone.
I love that. I love that so much. I want to read a statistic that I found recently, actually. Oh, it's not the full-time scoreline that my mother sent me. There, I found it right now. Yeah, we're very big in sports. My mom and I, we love sports. And so whenever a team wins, she always reminds me, and
That's
vice
awesome.
versa as well. But anyway, so this is the statistic that I wanted to share. Listen to this, though. It says 20% of businesses don't make it in the first year. 30% of businesses don't make it in the second year. 50% of businesses don't make it in the fifth year. 70% of businesses don't make it in the 10th year. 30% of business owners don't take a salary. 98% of businesses have less than 100 employees. 64% of all jobs are from small businesses. 44% of US GDP is actually from small businesses. This is the one that I wanted to talk about is 9% of businesses ever break the gross revenue of $1 million, only 9%. And then 70% of the average profit of small businesses is 7 cents out of the dollar. Now, the reason why I kind of was reading out the statistics, we know that one of the most important and successful routes in becoming super self-sufficient and self-reliant is mainly through sales, real estate, insurance, and so forth as well. Why do so many people fail in 100% commission-based positions?
Yeah, I mean, I would just go back to it's going to be, the paradigm and just the habits that they've, created or not created, but they've had their entire lives, right? If someone, wasn't consistent before they got into a 100% commission position, they're most likely not going to start becoming consistent overnight, right? And so a lot of people, they go. So there's a whole a chart, right? So you start out, you're really excited about what you're doing, right? So you're really fired up. You see all the endless possibilities and opportunities ahead of you, right? And what's possible. You hear your friend is doing this much per month, that much per month, and you're looking at it from a very optimistic viewpoint, right? And then you'll get into stage 2 to where it's like, okay, now it's like you're realizing that this is a little bit harder than it looked, right? And eventually you hit that bottom level to where it's like, you're now pessimistic, right? Because everyone goes through these different cycles, right? These different cycles in a 100% commission position. And once someone gets into that that bottom, the bottom part, right? They're like, oh, I hit rock bottom. maybe they're having a little bit of a hard time, they have a sales slump or whatever it might be. That's where most people are going to be quitting. Right. And so the reason why is simply because they're just not pushing through and being consistent, right, with the things that they're being taught and everything like that. And a lot of the time people are focused on like the immediate results, right? Instead of instant gratification, right? Because most people that end up stopping, they were probably maybe a week, a couple weeks, maybe a month away from actually starting to go on the other side of that and actually make it. You see, most people quit before the miracle happens. That's a huge thing, right? They quit before the miracle happens. They quit before they had that pivotal moment, to that aha moment, where they were like, oh wow, I just need to make this tiny little micro adjustment, and then everything changes.
That's very, very powerful. That's a good answer. I appreciate that. And where do you see the insurance field heading within the next few years? Like, do you feel like it's ever going to plateau within like the next 10 years or so?
Yeah, so within the next 10 years, I mean, there's going to be changes in terms of, with AI evolving and everything like that. I mean, plateauing, I mean, with what we're doing with the mortgage protection and over the phone, this is like relatively new to insurance, right? When it comes to phone sales with insurance, so protecting mortgages over the phone with a life insurance policy, or protecting someone's retirement with an annuity. I don't know anyone that does, annuities over the phone call.
Yeah.
Right. I've only ever done an annuity. So I helped someone move like a 401k and a couple people in January into a fixed indexed annuity that they've never seen my face. It was all over the phone. They moved their life savings into a product that was able to help them make sure they outlive their money. Right. And so I would say that this is all like relatively new in terms of, how we're doing insurance. And so over the next 10 years, I mean, there's going to be, a lot more people starting to do it in a similar way, but I don't really see a huge dip or a huge plateau happening within the next decade. Anything's possible. However, I mean, I really don't see that, from a standpoint of at least agencies that are continuing to adapt and continue to focus on, elevating the scripts that they have, the training that they have for their agents and everything like that. Maybe there's going to be plateaus for like maybe average organizations that maybe didn't learn, advanced skill sets with tonality and maybe learning how to actually like sell people in a way to where, they don't feel like they're being sold.
100%.
Right.
And nobody wants to really feel that way. Like nobody really. And I want to know, you're a business owner. You're very successful in what you do, considering like the time frame you've been in this industry. What would you say how would you manage the harmony of your work-life balance between family and running a business?
Yeah, so I'd say that the answer is going to be different for everyone.
Okay.
Right. So it's all going to be,
100%.
relative to the individual, their definition of freedom. Right. So if someone has, so like for myself, at least, I have this definition of freedom that might sound, just way out there crazy to most people. And that's okay. Right. And so it's more of so how I'm managing it right now, the hours that I'm working, this will be my last year working as much as I am. So I'm doing about 110 to 120 hours a week. This is my last little stretch of that. At the end of this year, I'm going to be cutting down from that to about 90 to 100, then continuing to cut down from so on and so forth, just as the years go on, right? And so with creating this business in such a short time span, it's had a huge impact on the amount of hours I've needed to put into the business to have the results, right? And so I would say that it's going to come down to the individual making sure that, they're in agreement with, maybe their family, whether it's a mom, dad, siblings, or maybe it's going to be like their spouse if they have a wife, maybe they have a husband, maybe they have kids like I do. So I have 4 kids. I have a 7-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 9-month-old right now, plus my wife, of course. And so there's 6 of us, right? So we have to figure out ways to be able to, spend time together as a family. There's limited amounts of time, but we want to make sure that the time that we do spend together like counts, right? And so it's going to be really nice to be able to put an additional like 10, 15 hours a week towards my family, this next year. right?
Wow.
While still being able to develop the people in the business to where like I'll be able to cut down my hours progressively over time to be able to put more time towards my family. But this is a temporary thing. This is not a forever thing, right? This is a temporary thing, a sacrifice that I'm making right now to be able to achieve the 10-year goal of, having over $100 million, liquid net worth in addition to assets, right? In order to achieve that level of freedom, it takes an extraordinary amount of time, energy, and effort, and there's certain things that you have to give up to go up. It's not forever; it's short term, but I don't want to look back at my life when I'm 50 years old, 60 years old, 70 years old, and look back and realize that I still left a lot on the table,
100%.
that I still have a half full tank. I want to make sure my tank's empty.
When you say you want to make sure your tank's empty, it reminds me of, I want to give it a specific example for me. I served a 2-year mission for the church. Are you part of our faith, I would assume, right?
So I'm actually not.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, my wife's family is. Yeah.
Okay. So I served a 2-year mission in Ghana. And so in those specific 2 years were the first 2 years of my life, I gave 100% effort. Like I promise you, I'm not saying I was the best missionary, but I promise I gave my best. And the reason why I'm saying this is somebody once asked me, like, would you do it again? I'm like, man, I did my best at that point in time because I knew I wanted to like just give it my all for one thing in my life. But I give it my best. Like I don't even want to think about doing it again. But of course, it was a testimony build and was an experience for me. The reason I'm also leading back to this, Kobe Bryant, when he retired, and I think later on when he was at a Patrick Bet-David podcast, or it was another interview.
Yeah.
And they asked him like if he missed it. It's like, nah. Like I did all I could. And that's one person that literally committed 20 years of his life 100% every 110% every game.
Absolutely.
And I feel like when you have nothing left in the tank is when you have zero regrets in life. So I'm glad you mentioned that.
Absolutely. Well, yeah. So you know how it feels like to leave it all on the table and give that 100%. And like you just said, just like when that question was asked to Kobe, I mean, that right there is just a testament to you playing full out during that time frame, right? And so there's different phases in life to where it's like by doing it for a very short period of time of 2 years, that wasn't that much time, but looking back at it, I mean, do you feel like it was worth it to play full out versus maybe half out or just 50%?
Oh yeah, 100. You're asking a question, right?
Yeah.
So yes, the reason why I say that, throughout like my journey being here, I look at the moments where I was like giving up was not an option. But because I created those habits and that experience that I encountered back then, like you can strip everything from me right now. I can be homeless, man. I'll find a way to get a phone and network with somebody, sleep on the couch for 2 weeks, then keep networking. Because I feel like some habits are so important and are the grassroots and the foundation of everyone's character at the end of the day. If you can build those things super early, you'll hold yourself accountable in the long run because you'll look back when times get tough and say, I am this person now. So
That's right.
So I have a question again for you. There's somebody out there that would love to start a business and would really try to be at least half as successful as you have been when you started this agency. What tips or advice would you give to those people if they want to start a successful business?
Yeah, I would say number one, make sure to, so in 100% commission sales, I would say number one, make sure to, commit to a year, right? A minimum of a year, because anything less than that, I mean, you're not giving yourself the opportunity to actually have success, right? So I'd say that would be number one. Number two would be that you're going to go through ups and downs, and to not allow yourself to let the lows get too low or the highs get too high. And number three would just be focus on, getting better on a daily basis. Focus on improving, practicing, executing, finding people that they can learn from and, have as a mentor, like we talked about earlier, to be able to, increase their skill set, right, that entire time. So I would just keep it really simple with those three things.
100%. Looking back right now, before you started the door-to-door industry,
Yeah.
a few years back with when you moved from Ohio to Hawaii, with the knowledge that you've acquired over time, the experience you've gained over time, what advice, knowing what you know now, would you give younger Rich?
Yeah, that's a great question.
I love that question so much.
Yeah, I would say, learn from your mistakes faster and don't repeat the same one more than once. That would be the main thing.
I love that. You know why? Because I'm going to ask you the same question in 10 years' time when you are a 9-figure business, and then you'll have a different form of advice from the 10 years you would have gained from then as well.
Absolutely.
Last but not least, every single guest that comes towards the show, because the code to winning the insights you need today to seize the world tomorrow. This question, I feel like everyone often has a different take. There is no right or wrong answer. It's just I love the insight that every specific entrepreneur gives when they answer the specific question. What, in your own words, is the definition of winning?
Yeah, so when it comes to winning, when Kobe Bryant, the late Kobe Bryant, said winning is everything, that really resonated with me. And at this time in my life, I have to agree with that, and that's how I feel about winning. Winning is everything right now. At least in this chapter, in this phase. It might change later on, but as of right now, it's everything.
Boom. There's a mic drop right there. Nothing else we conclude after then. Winning is everything.
Yeah.
The code to winning. Insights you need today to seize the world tomorrow. Rich, my brother, thank you so much for your time coming in. I really appreciate that. And if you could tell the viewers and guests any socials that you would like them to connect to, and if they want to try working with you as well in the insurance agency, if you can just give a whole description for our viewers as well, please.
Yeah, they can just find me on Instagram at Get Rich with Rich. So Get Rich with Rich on Instagram, that's my tag. And you can send me a DM on there. You can follow me on there to kind of watch the journey and everything like that.
Awesome. Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, you're very welcome.